A good sermon, one with dreams and visions of God's way of shalom, is one which we both preach and live. Now, Jesus preached the Beatitudes in both ways. We know Jesus preached the words because it's recorded in more than one gospel. The details may differ, but the multiple telling of it reveals that this sermon in particular was of huge importance to the writers of the Gospels. Now, was it because it changed lives? The words, when people heard them for the first time, did they think, that's it? Were hearts strangely warmed, as Wesley said? Were people inspired to dream God's dreams and see God's visions? If not the words, then certainly the actions of Jesus, the living of this sermon, would have. Because in the context of Jesus' ministry, he lived the words of the Beatitudes, and still does, using our hands and our feet and our hearts, if we but offer ourselves. Now, one of the Beatitudes says, "Blessed is the peacemaker." Now, what a radical thought that must have been for those under the oppression of the superpower of the day. Pax Romana, or the Roman peace, was in the promised land of God. But this Roman peace was most often achieved and maintained by violence and fear, and not love. So there must have been some who really struggled with this teaching of Jesus. You can just imagine some of the responses, like peace with Rome? No way. You know, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. You reap what you sow. But peacemakers here means those who have chosen to live the radical great heartness of God and of God's shalom. Because God makes the sun to rise on friend and foe alike, male and female, rich and poor, Jew and Gentile, including the Romans, the oppressed and the oppressor, on the just and the unjust. Now, some would build walls between all of those, but the peacemaker builds bridges. And that's Jesus' way. So that's why 75 years ago, on the 10th of January, the Methodist Church vacated Methodist Central Hall. It was because the United Nations needed a place to gather. So remember that some people in one lifetime had witnessed not just one but two world wars, when we saw the very heights and depths that the human soul could reach. And so the human family needed a place to both lament what had been done and undone. And so the human family needed a place to lament what we had done and had not done, and then to dream. And so as Methodists, we said, here's our central hall. We can dance with your dream because that's ours as well. And we will give you as much time and space as you need. And we will continue to hold you in prayer. Now, Ernest Bevin in particular found such inspiration and solace that we offered a place for the great human family to do what we do in our places of prayer every day. We lament what we have done and left undone. And we seek renewed courage and strength to live the words that we say. And for him to hold such a meeting bathed in such prayer was a gift. Now, sometimes the effort of a peacemaker may seem futile. War hasn't ended, and us versus them, that still goes on. And yet there hasn't been a World War III. And we have just celebrated the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity and 75 years of the United Nations, of the great human family, seeking and lamenting and hoping. You see, the work of a peacemaker is always successful. If, like Jesus, the sermon is lived, because it is the living testimony to God's shalom that keeps the hope and the vision alive.